There's a long way to go to get from this paddle to this canoe. You start at your hands, you gotta come all the way up your arms, all the way down your body, all the way out your legs to the canoe, and vice versa, right? All the way back up and out. So if at any point in time you're not engaging in that same unified movement, so if pieces are moving independently of each other, if they're moving faster or slower, or they're not doing their job at all, wherever that happens, and again I'm really walking a razor wire here of not getting into technique, wherever that point happens, that's where you lose the connection between your paddle and your canoe. Right? So if something is doing, if one part of your body is doing something independently of everything else, so if, I guess I can do this without, I don't think I'm going to mess anybody's technique up. Say for instance your shoulders are moving faster than your hips. Right? So I've got my hips and shoulders, right? The technique I know is to bring hips and shoulders around together. Well, what if my shoulders start before my hips? What if my shoulders move faster than my hips and they start at the same time? Wherever that disparity is, that's where you've lost connection. So if the shoulders are moving faster than the hips now, I've got connection from here to here. I've lost everything below. But another example would be, say I've got everything set and I'm ready to pull. Now I start to pull here, but something goofy happens, like I push here, or I bring back here, or I start to bend and I change angles, right? And I start to do this. Well, now I've broken that connection here and here, so now all the work is being done here. I've lost all of this connection. So just like you would instinctively, you're a kid on that skateboard, and you're grabbing that pole and you're trying to shoot yourself forward, that's what you want to be thinking about. I'm moving forward with one big, connected, full body movement, all right? So we're going to do a drill that gets us thinking like that. So it's boom, this is staying put, I'm sliding past it, right? So right, and again, even without that pole, now you're that same kid, you're sitting on the skateboard and you're moving forward, right? For those of you that have done any traditional paddleboarding, you know this, right? You're reaching out, or even just surfing, you know this. You're reaching out, shooting through, reaching out, shooting through. You would do that instinctively as a child, right? We want to have that same full body motion. You're getting forward, good positive, planted, now you're shooting your body past it, using your entire body. If you're paddling on the right, you're going to be using right leg drive, right? It just makes sense. You can all visualize it from when you're sitting in a 6-man. Well, now we're not sitting in a 6-man anymore. Now we're sitting like this. Use it so we can drive, just like our example of on the skateboard, but we don't want the stress here. So how are we going to do that? I'm just going to, anybody see the difference? Anyone? Shout it out if you see it.
Left leg straight.
What?
Left leg drops.
I'm straightening my left leg, right? Because that's comfortable, right? This quad, pretty strong. All I have to do is just straighten this one, and when I straighten this one, if everything's connected, right? If I'm really focusing on using my entire body and everything is connected, if I straighten this leg, this hip goes back. If my midsection is strong and locked, when this hip goes back, this shoulder goes back. When they go back, this hip, this knee, this shoulder, this side of my rib cage all come forward. So now I don't have to pull myself around. I can just straighten my leg and I come around. All right? So that little trick, and I've never heard anyone say this before, so this could be good, bad, indifferent, right or wrong. I'm not claiming it. All I know is you're going to paddle a lot longer. You're going to have a lot more fun paddling if you're not paddling in pain. One way that I know that I can immediately reduce your pain paddling is making sure that you don't overstrain your hip flexors. That is the quickest way I've learned to maintain low back health. So you have to set realistic goals for yourself. Now, what is going to limit you as a paddling athlete are the 3 points of this triangle, which we'll make a pyramid here in just a minute. The first one is what I just alluded to, athleticism. Your own individual athleticism and genetic giftedness are going to limit you, right? So however good of an athlete you are, and we all have to have realistic expectations for ourselves. We have to look in the mirror and decide, assess ourselves. However good an athlete you are, that's going to be one limit. That's going to be one limiting factor. All right, so if you are an amazing athlete, and you always have been, whatever sport you played, whatever endeavor you got involved in, you were always in the top percent, you know, you were always all conference or whatever, then now this is your limit. Now, if you have always been the weekend warrior, and there's nothing wrong with that, I'm not demeaning that by any means, but you have to know that's going to be your limiting factor. You're only going to get that good. Okay, the next one, fitness. Your level of fitness is going to determine how fast and how good a paddler you're going to be. Because if you're gassing all the time, you could have great athleticism, but if you're not putting in any work to maintain your fitness, you're going to gas out. That athleticism will only take you so far. The person with less athleticism, that's more fit, is going to go a lot further, a lot faster than you are. And then the last is going to be technique. And however good your technique is, that's going to limit you. So you could be an amazing athlete and you could be super fit, and that could be good enough for you, right? You could have shitty technique. If your tank is limitless by being that incredible athlete with that incredible level of fitness, and I could name some good paddlers that is the case. That those two things are what make them as good as they are. Their technique is for shit. But they can get away with it because their limits, right, are high enough so their technique maybe gets them here. The other factors carry them beyond the rest of us that are maybe limited here at our athleticism or limited here at our fitness. So, of those three factors, two of them you have direct control over. One of them, that's the card we're dealt. We each individually have to deal with that. But two of them you have a direct effect on. One is technique, two is fitness. Now, what makes this triangle a pyramid is the number of man hours that you put into your paddling, right? So the higher your pyramid goes is the number of hours that you put into the two things you can have an effect on. And that's going to be your technique and your fitness. So the more time you spend understanding your mechanics and improving, right? And again, this is outside of your style. This is focusing on those appropriate mechanics. And then getting fit, then you can go, the only thing that will limit you then is your level of athleticism. So if you know that, hey, I'm always going to be a middle of packer, but I'm going to be the best damn middle of the packer possible, work on your technique, work on your fitness. Right? If you are a former Olympian or you are a former All-American swimmer or you've got some kind of pedigree like that and you have decided that, hey, I want to be one of the top paddlers in California, well now, yeah, work on those other two things because you've already got the raw athleticism. You already know that you have that ability. Build the other two up. So that makes sense to everybody? So set realistic goals for yourself so that paddling is fun. The last drill that I really want to work on is we're going to do what's called a Frankenstein. And some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not be. This borders on talking about technique and style, but what it does is, again, just like shooting the hips, this gets you to learn a little something about connection.